Springtime in Oklahoma. Hello, thanks for tuning in to NewsOK TV. I'm Dave Morris. Yes, springtime in Oklahoma. That means we can expect the following: the Festival of the Arts and rain, the Norman Music Festival, and the Thunder in the NBA playoffs. Each year we have the Memorial Marathon, and on a serious note, a remembrance ceremony of the bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah building back in 1995. I covered this year's event, the 19th anniversary, along with our Todd Frazier and Tim Money.
19 years ago. That day began very much like today, with the sun shining and people going about their lives. And then at 9:02 a.m., our lives forever changed.
Just as it has the past 19 years, the grounds here around the Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum have filled on April 19th. Our remembrance ceremony honored those who were killed in the bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah building back in 1995.
We come here to remember those who were killed, those who survived, those changed forever. May all who leave here know the impact of violence. May this memorial offer comfort, strength, hope, and serenity. Please join me in 168 seconds of silence.
A moment of silence was held for 168 seconds, following a rendition of the national anthem by the Heritage Hall Show Choir. Remarks were delivered by Governor Mary Fallin.
The horror, the brutality, and the evil act on the Murrah building can never be forgotten and can never be overstated. It was an attack that could have easily crippled our city. It could have easily crippled our state. It could have left our people hopeless, but it did not. Instead, the people of Oklahoma banded together with the help of our volunteers and our well-wishers, not only from across our state, but from across our nation, and even from around the world. They helped us overcome. We worked together, we comforted each other, we rebuilt. And today, we are a more prosperous city and a stronger state. We recovered from this terrible tragedy, but we have not forgotten. May God bless Oklahoma, and may God bless America. Thank you.
Then the names of those who were killed were read.
Danielle Nicole Bell. Miss Bailey Allman. Thank you so much for joining us today and helping us continue building on our mission. May God continue to bless our community and our Oklahoma City National Memorial. Thank you so much. God bless.
You can watch the ceremony in its entirety online at newsok.com. That ceremony is always moving and always very well done. The executive director of the Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum is Carrie Watkins. She visited with us about the purpose of the museum and growth ahead. Now, we also spoke with Jamie Raines, an exhibit designer for the museum, about new changes we'll be seeing.
Well, the mission of the memorial in the museum is we come here to remember. We want people to come here to remember what happened and to learn from the lessons that were rolled out over the last 19 years. We're standing in the Gallery of Honor, a brand new Gallery of Honor. The boxes that you see portraying each of the 168 people who were killed were a part of the museum just like this, just a couple of days ago. I mean, we've had these since we opened the museum in 2001. But this is a new room, a new gallery without columns, the oval gallery that you can come in and share the stories. And then we added a dimension of interactivity on computers where you can go look these people up, see where their chairs are outside, hear from their loved ones or their stories, and begin to understand the impact of violence on a very human level, that these were people that were just like you and I going about their day, that, terrorists decided to change the course of their lives.
I mean, we've done a lot. I mean, it's starting about 2 years ago when we started with the master plan, looking at different ways that the museum could grow, to what extent, how much was going to be new, how much was going to be kept the same, what were the key and critical elements that couldn't change, how the story could not be changed but added to, but we don't have extra space. I mean, these are all the constraints. So there's a bunch of significant changes. I think that on one level, there's just the experience coming here and having that visual connection between the memorial and the museum itself. I mean, with the new architectural bay window that we're opening up, it brings full circle that experience of being in the memorial versus being in sort of surrounded by the story of this museum. So it's hard to kind of put those into words, that experience, when you see it. I mean, for instance, right now you have the damaged room. It alone is very moving, but in the new configuration, you'll be able to see the damaged room on your left and also be looking at this beautiful bay window at the memorial below and see this new skyline in Oklahoma City as well. I mean, you put those together and there's a new interpretation there that's, I think, very powerful.
And so I think we want people to come here to remember and to learn and to understand the senselessness of violence.
The Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon is coming up on Sunday. We will be there from start to finish and provide you with updates and stories in the Oklahoman and at NewsOK.com. Now, I will not be running, but will certainly be in awe of those that do. Now, I mentioned the Thunder being in the playoffs. They're facing Memphis in the first round of the NBA's Western Conference playoffs. They do a fantastic job of providing entertainment during every game, so even the non-sports fan typically has a great time at those games. One of the fan favorites is the Kiss Cam. Yes, that's where the arena cameras search for adoring couples to put up on the big screen. Our Jenny Carlson and Greg Singleton tracked down one of the more famous couples, the pair that ends each segment. Here's their story.
Her birthday and things like that, he made sure we had tickets. That's when this Kiss Cam thing started, was back in February the 22nd in 12.
Okay.
At the game.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, in 2012. We
They've
went
probably
on
been
her
on about
birthday
40
and
times.
he arranged, had her name on the jumbotron up there for her happy birthday. And then he'd made arrangements with Jeff, the cameraman down there, to get us on a Kiss Cam.
And now we're friends.
And that's when that all started. And he just kept making a game out of it. Jeff's a real fine fellow. We got to know him well. Well, last year, we went to half of them last year. I told Tim then, I said, if you're not going to any more of these games, this, you ought to get rid of these tickets for sheriff. He said, no, you guys are using them. He said, well, that's pretty expensive tickets, which they are quite expensive.
Right.
But he went ahead and got them again, and we had been going to about half the games as usual. And after his passing, I was in charge of the tickets, and
He's executive.
we didn't use them for a while. We missed some, or sold them and turned back to Jessica to sell them. Then I thought, well, Tim would want us to go to the ball game. That he'd always, when he couldn't go, he wanted us to go. So we went to several of them. We gave some. He has one son here, and he's working for UNIT. He's an assistant driller now. So he works a week on and a week off, but when he could use them, he used some of them. And we gave some. We had one lady at the church that just loved watching Thunder on TV. And said something about she'd sure like to go to a game one time. And she just loved Tim when he'd go to church with us. She just thought he was something special. And so I told Mother, I said, I bet Tim would like for her to go to the ball game. So I talked to her son-in-law. I said, if I give you the tickets, would you take her to the game? Because I knew she wouldn't drive herself. So he did. He took that, and she got her picture taken with a couple of the girls up there.
Yeah.
And she just thought that was great. And I just said, well, you know, that's something Tim would want us to do. So very generous, very benevolent.
Yeah.
I told people, if you ever met Tim and you weren't his friend, it was your fault.
Yeah.
Because he was, he was very well known and very respected in his industry.
Thunder playoffs continue this week, games 3 and 4 in Memphis on Thursday and Friday. We'll be right back with some updates on downtown Oklahoma City.
In 2012, we had the largest concentration of Oklahoma musicians to go to South by Southwest ever. Dave Morrison and I, we talked about it as like, let's just do this guerrilla style, okay? We'll shoot 1 or 2 performances by an act, and then we'll get an interview, and we'll get it up as quickly as possible. So that's what we were doing. We ended up with 21 different videos, and those also included some stand-up.
Since its initial launch, over 40,000 current and new subscribers have activated a full access subscription with The Oklahoman. TheOklahoman.com is the newest addition to the suite of products included in this full access subscription.
TheOklahoma.com is a really unique website. You're not going to find many websites like it. It is really just like a newspaper. It has today's news packaged together, compared with the other news of the day, and prioritized by an editor.
Welcome back to NewsOK TV. I'm Dave Morris. A video museum is being created with a memorabilia from the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Department has a colorful history that dates back to the territorial days. But don't take my word for it. Here's Sheriff John Wetzel.
We're beginning a project to try to acquire old photos, any kind of historical documents or artifacts that are relating to the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office and its history. The Sheriff's Office actually goes and dates back to the 1890s, but we have very little information, artifacts, photos from back in those early days. We've been able to find pictures of all of the sheriffs and 21 sheriffs in Oklahoma County history. But we're missing the pictures of 2 of the deputies who were killed in the line of duty, and that's Levi Ezel and Frank Yeager. And they were killed in 1911 and 1915 respectively. And we just discovered another deputy who was killed in the line of duty in 1926, and we found a picture of him in the paper, so we have a picture of him. But we learned a lot of stuff. We learned that the first traffic division of the Sheriff's Office was created in 1923, and the first motorcycle division was created in 1925. So I mean, it's always good to learn from your history and to respect your history and to pay homage to your history, and that's what this history project is trying to do.
Thank you, Sheriff. That video by David McDaniel, one of our photographers at the Oklahoman, and Grayson Cook with the edit. Now we come to the Steve Lackmeyer portion of the show. He covers downtown, midtown, Bricktown, and the uptown districts of Oklahoma City. I was there as Steve Lackmeyer interviewed Chuck Wiggin about historical landmarks planned for the downtown area.
This is an idea that Bob Blackburn and I have been kicking around for quite a few years, and we call it the 89er Trail because, of course, these settlers were known as the 89ers, and for years there have been organizations that commemorate the people that arrived in those days, family members and descendants of those 89ers. So this is a trail that tells their story. We've been very careful to make sure that the markers will tell the accurate history of what happened in a way that will interest people who know nothing about it. We have 30 markers identified, and they will be scattered around downtown. The locations will correspond to, again, events that took place. So they will be tied to photographs and specific things that happened on the ground. We'll have at least 1 or 2 here because this station was the starting point, and the first survey that the Seminole Town Company laid out was laid out 90 degrees from this station, headed approximately west, but the train line wasn't exactly north-south, so the line went a little bit northwest, and that created all kinds of confusion later. I hope that these markers will all be up by the end of the year. I don't think most people know about this, and they will when this trail is up and running, so that's why we're very excited about getting it on the ground. Well, it's hard not to get excited about history in Oklahoma City because this city was founded in such an unusual way. I mean, there's no other city that has such a great story of its beginning as Oklahoma City does. It all happened right here, but except for the statues that tell about the pioneers that came on the 22nd of April, 1889, there's nothing that really relates the stories themselves, how it happened, the great competition of claimants, the governance with that, supervision from Washington. This was land that was opened quite by accident as a result of a change in Congress and presidents, and a proclamation opened this land without any formal law to govern this group of people that descended on this place all of a sudden on April 22nd. We have all of our history here captured in photographs, and the photographs you can find in a bookstore, but you can't find them on the ground where where the events took place. And that's the aim of this trail, is to tell that story with the help of these photographs where they actually happened.
That same day, Steve and I caught up with Jonathan Russell about his new find as development continues at Northwest 23rd and Walker in Oklahoma City.
Future home of the Rise. Jonathan, how long has it been now since you started working on this?
Oh gosh, probably a couple years now, Steve. Time gets away.
There were 3 buildings you knew that you were buying on this corner. Which one did you really know as far as what the facade looked like?
The only one that, and as things have turned out, was just the pump, just the gas station, and because it was obvious. Everything else has been an evolution.
So let's talk about, first of all, we had quite the surprise at Pizzeria Gusto. Remind readers about what we found there.
Well, there was probably a 20s vintage Art Deco facade that was, I would say, about 90% intact, and it was a surprise to everyone to unearth it. No one knew it was there, and so it was an exciting find for sure. And this project has been a series of those, as you well know, Steve. And every time we find one of those, it slows us down a little, and we've got to figure out what to do and how to incorporate it into the design and all of those things. So it's worked on our time frames a little, but this project is amazing.
Talk about the latest surprise you've uncovered and what you're about to unveil to the community.
Well, I know very little about design. I have architects and design professionals who tell me, but I guess this facade that we found now is a streamlined modern, I think it's called, and it's across the 3 westerly buildings of this, and it is 99% intact, I would say, and it's absolutely gorgeous, amazing. And when we knew that there were some bones there, we didn't know what. So when we uncovered it and found out what it was, we really had to stop and think for a minute and figure out how and what to do to make sure it was preserved correctly. Obviously, that's critical.
And talk about the material that was used in this original facade, and how affordable would it be to do that in this era?
Oh, there's no way. It's cut granite, it's chunks of cut granite, and the suspended awning is still there, and it's just, it's insanely beautiful. And to replicate that, there's just no way not to make a project economically feasible. It just couldn't happen.
So what does this mean for the overall look of the Rise? Talk about the authenticity of the design and what it adds back to Uptown.
Well, we had seen, as I said, some bones that were left in there. So we knew a few elements, and we tried to put that into our design. So if in fact we were able to maintain those with our demolition and all of those things, that it would already be part of our design. What we didn't know is the extent that it was there, and a few elements of it that were just overwhelming. But all in all, it hasn't changed that much, but instead of being new modern products, it's going to be a 1940s vintage facade, which is just amazing. We're still looking at early summer to start having tenants in this place. I know it doesn't look like it today, but things will move fast when we get complete control and can move at our own pace.
More coverage about downtown Oklahoma City can be found online at newsok.com and Steve's blog at okccentral.com. Coming up, a look at the new Aloft Hotel in Deep Deuce. Stay tuned.
shooting more photos at each assignment, but we're putting those into separate galleries that can be added into the iPad and online editions so that the viewers can see a lot more photographs. We can tell a lot more of the story visually, give them more detailed shots, more overall shots, just a lot more variety that really enriches their experience.
Our Tim Money took his excellent camera work down to the new Aloft Hotel. I want you to notice a few things about this video, in addition to learning about the new hotel. The hotel wasn't quite complete when we visited, but Tim shot around those areas, focusing on what was already in place and ready for the public. Great use of B-roll and music in this video.
Well, this has been a tremendously difficult and interesting project. It's a multi-structural system. So the site sloped 14 feet, so we were able to terrace the building down and make it more interesting. But by the same token, because of the way that it was designed, it was just tremendously challenging. Starwood, I really appreciated allowing me the flexibility to conceptualize a building that would be of some architectural significance on this very important corner, an entry into Bricktown. We added several features that are non-prototypical to a loft, including a triplet level WXYZ bar with dining space, a rooftop dining terrace, 8,000 square feet of meeting space, so many parking on site, so many different things, enlarged the lobby, completely took the basic core of an aloft and expanded it. The design of the building is the interior design is very colorful, it's very tactile, it has very many different textures. We want people to interact, everything from the positioning of the furniture to the textures of the fabrics, to the paintings, to the levels. All of it is geared towards an exciting atmosphere.
The Aloft is at the corner of Walnut Avenue and Northeast 2nd in Oklahoma City, where Deep Deuce and Bricktown connect, where a two-story medical office stood for almost a half-century. The hotel has an imposing presence that hovers over the Bricktown skyline. Coming up, a look at music events this week.
Social media gives readers a voice that they can interact with us in a way that I don't think they've ever been able to. And it allows us to, include their thoughts and their questions and everything in our content.
Whereas we used to just publish and just tell everybody what the news and entertainment and information was. The rest of the world wants to engage. They want to talk back. They want us to talk back to them. They want insight, they want opinion, and a lot of that is new culturally for a newspaper.
We've actually been using the QR codes for a couple of years now, starting off in some of our custom publications, but now we've really ratcheted up this year, using it in the daily newspaper, and it's definitely taken off. We use QR codes so that our readers don't have to get up from their newspaper to look at our multimedia, video, photo streams, lots of different multimedia that we have online.
This past week, we had Record Store Day. It's an international celebration of actual records and music fans everywhere. Kyle Roberts visited with Gestrin Records on Western and 36 to learn more.
Record Store Day started out a few years ago as a
national celebration of brick and mortar record stores, and it started out really small with just a handful of releases and maybe 100 stores, and then this year there's 400 releases and more than 500 stores, and it's just grown and grown every year. It is Saturday, April 19th. We'll be opening at 10 a.m., so a little bit earlier than we normally do. We will have hundreds and hundreds of the exclusive releases that are only available on Record Store Day, and we are having a sale. Everything in the store will be 10% off, used CDs are 30% off, dollar records are half off, and our guest room t-shirts will be on sale. And then, we'll have tons and tons of releases up there, so.
I'm gonna pull the record down off of the shelf, slide it out the cover all by myself, put it on the player, watch it spin around, drop the needle and dig the sound of my daddy's record collection.
In Norman at 1 we have John Calvin, and at 2 is Jacob Fred Jazz Odyssey. Up here at the Oklahoma City Western Avenue store at 3 is Sugar Free All Stars, at 4 is Travis Linville, and at 5 is Color Music. It's just a pretty special thing. It's not very often that, most of the people who are into records and into music come out in one place on one day to, enjoy live music, enjoy special record releases. It's kind of just the epitome of what makes record collecting fun.
Big thanks to our friends, the Sugar Free All-Stars, Chris and Dr. Rock, for their help and their music. Now, speaking of music, there's plenty of excellent local musicians in action this week. The Festival of the Arts is at the Myriad Gardens, and the Norman Music Festival is this weekend. You can find coverage of both great events in the Oklahoman and online at NewsOK.com. That's all for this show. Have a great week, everyone.